Welcome to another episode of Rosen's Sports Monday on this glorious Monday here, post sports weekend with the Vikings knocking off Nebraska. Go Gophers, go Gophers. One of my least favorite fan bases, but nice to see Nebraska leave again with another loss against Minnesota and PJ Fleck. And then, of course, on Sunday afternoon, the Eagle fans, and they were in attendance at U.S. Bank, came in and did what they normally do against the Vikings, and the Vikings were not even close to being at their best. So anyway, it was not a great sports weekend for the Vikings, but turn around, they got to play the Chargers on Thursday night in L.A., and on we go with that 3-3 record. Meanwhile, my special guest today, close personal friend, I got to always do Sid because it's a tribute to Sid because I just mentioned the Gophers. Pat Kessler is here today, and I'm very excited to have Pat here. We worked a few years together at WCCO Television.
Boy, did we ever.
We are both...
Men of a certain age,
but we get the same sort of approach from, I'm sure, the public as well. How's retirement?
Yeah.
I get that question all the time, and I get defensive. I go, well, I'm not really retired. I'm still doing the pregame show for Fox 9.
Yeah,
your lovely wife, Mim, who's my boss now at Fox 9, and I'm doing 3 days a week with Common and at KFAN. I'm doing this podcast. I'm busy just enough. I don't know if you get the same thing.
I do, and I'm also very angry every time. No, I'm not at all. People, what they ask is, what do you do? What do you do all day? Yeah. And my answer, I asked them to ask me the question again. What do you do? Whatever the hell I want. That's what I do every day.
I've earned it.
Yes, that's what I do every day. So yeah, I love it. I love my life.
Did you think it was going to be as hard as you worked, and I know the hours you put in with the legislature, covering politics in particular, and the uncertainty of how the hours were going to be, and I try both in obviously our newsroom used to be in St. Paul all the time, that the transition was going to be as smooth as it's been, because or was it? I mean,
it's actually a really good question because, like you, we don't have regular hours.
Right.
You don't work 9 to 5. It starts at 5 o'clock in the morning where you go through the emails and you answer your tips and you answer the voicemails, and it goes till 11 o'clock or midnight, and that's the way it goes every day for decades. Even on weekends, you're always working. You're never quite off, even if you're not at the station working. So that was the biggest change, to not have that heavy schedule. That was the biggest change. And it took a while to get over that, but I don't miss the pressure of it. I don't miss the everything that was coming every single day. And it got pretty harsh toward the last few years. And as we all know, politics has become a lot more of a contact sport than it was before. Right. And not necessarily nice. So I don't miss any of that.
Well, I was going to ask you, and we'll get into more of this because I want to go back in time a little bit as well, because there are still times when, I'm covering the Viking game, I'm involved with that, but if there's a big story, whatever might be happening, obviously politically, I mean, for sports, for me, it's like, a big story, like, oh man, do I really want to be there? I wish I was there right now. I really haven't had that feeling too often. I don't know if you've had that feeling. I know you were called in a couple times and have worked elections and a few other things, but has that tug been there at all?
Only for a couple of instances, just like you. Otherwise, I love my life so much, and I love every single day getting up.
I love hearing this.
Yes. So they have called me back a couple of times at CCO. I'll come back for elections and insurrections and infections like COVID, that. So I do get called back every once in a while, but there have been a couple of times where I did feel that tug, and one was when Walter Mondale passed away, and I didn't go back to cover that funeral, and I had become close with Fritz Mondale, the vice president, in the last years of his life. And so that was tough. But then the other one that really did was the assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, somebody I knew very, very well and worked closely with her for a long time. And so those were about the only two times where I thought, man, I should be back there. But otherwise, other than missing people like you, we live together in such close quarters, such long hours every single day, that you become the family. All of us are the family, aside from our families, our real families, and we spend more time together than we do with our kids and our spouses.
That's so true. And there we could go on and on about that. Let's go back in time, because I'm trying to recall when you first walked in the doors of WCCO television, what your background was. And because you weren't always necessarily assigned to just politics. Weren't you a general assignment reporter?
I was general assignment reporter. The very first story I ever did was the fight to save the White Castle, one of the original White Castles. And I love those kinds of stories, of course.
Gut bombs.
Yeah, that was it. And because of the architectural beauty of the old White Castles. And they did save it, by the way. But yes, that was it. I came from Minnesota Public Radio, where I had worked for a long time. Mm-hmm. But when I came into WCCO television, it was
what year was that?
Entirely different world. 1985.
Okay,
1985. So that I had never worked in television. It's very unusual because it was just pure dumb luck. I had never worked at a smaller market. Very similar to you.
Right.
And I didn't really know anything about television. I knew how to talk on the radio and I knew how to write in word pictures, but I didn't know what this camera thing was and who the person was that was going to be cutting up my tapes, all of that.
Even how to write for television, much different than any other forum.
It really is. And I would say that my experience on radio did help a little bit with that. But it was a completely different world.
Did you have a couple of mentors who kind of helped guide you? Because I know I certainly did when I didn't know nothing about nothing.
Well, that's a very interesting question, because there were a couple of people who helped me along the way. And when I was in radio, when I was in college, actually, encountered Dave Moore, who I kept in touch with just a little bit during my radio days. And then he helped me tremendously.
Dave Moore.
When I got to WCCO television.
I'm going to pump the brakes just for a second, because people even listening right now to not know Dave Moore was the Walter Cronkite of the Twin Cities as an anchor man. He had that kind of command and had that respect and the following. And he wasn't, he'd be the first to tell you, he wasn't just a journalist.
Right.
He was an actor.
Yes.
Who went to the University of Minnesota.
Very much so.
And had a great show pre Saturday Night Live, the Dave Moore Bedtime News on Saturday nights, where people would rush home from their dates on a Saturday night or whatever they were doing to make sure they would catch the bedtime news that Dave Moore would.
It was just like SNL then, where people would show, and it was irreverent and funny and all of that.
But it's interesting you mentioned Dave, because I think of the other, like Don Shelby, the journalistic background he had, and others in that. Dave Nimmer.
Dave Nimmer was the second one I was going to mention.
Okay.
So Dave Nimmer took me under his wing.
That's a good man.
Oh God, what a good man. Great journalist. Great journalist.
Correct.
And so he was helping me learn how to write. Doug Stone, who was the assistant news director at the time, who worked at the Star Tribune for many years. So yeah, Dave Nimmer was the one who really helped me get acclimated to television writing.
Did you always have a passion for politics? Did that come with you from radio, or did that develop as your time continued at WCCO television?
Well, when I was in college, I got very interested in politics. I was always interested in politics my whole life because there were so many things happening in the world. People forget that the 1960s, when I was a little kid, this was a tumultuous time for America, with the Kennedy assassination and then Bobby Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all of these, the violence, the Vietnam War.
Kent State, 4 dead in Ohio.
Right. I mean, all of that was a terrible time. So we talk about political violence nowadays, and it's terrible. I mean, the things that are happening nowadays, it really is. But in the 1960s, it was all of that and maybe more. But so that was when I was very interested just growing up. The moon landing, the Cultural Revolution, both in music and in clothing and in journalism too. The Nixon resignation. So all of that was a part of it. And But I, in college, was an English major, English literature, and so not journalism.
Right.
And that's how I connected with Dave Moore. We had a connection because he loved good books and writing and all of that.
So going from a general assignment reporter covering the White Castle story,
it was great. It was a great story.
Some fun.
Award-worthy, I'm sure.
To covering governors and senators and the daily minutia of politics in the state of Minnesota. Was that a slow transition, or was it like did the news director, did someone say, "Here's your beat, you're going to take it and you're going to run with it"?
Well, it's a great question because if I peel back the layers a little bit, I never thought I was the person for this. I always thought I was not good enough for this, and I would never be good enough for this. The imposter syndrome that I felt pretty much my whole career, but particularly every time there was something new when I was starting out as a political reporter, I was going to interview the governor. Oh my God, really? You want me to do that? A U.S. senator, even the president of the United States eventually. So I knew I was covering the legislature for Minnesota Public Radio, so I had an introduction to politics. I read widely in politics, so I knew all of that kind of thing. And the important thing is that I had an enthusiasm for it, and you got to come to it loving it, not hating it. But yeah, you asked me that question, and I flash back immediately to, they really think I can do this? I don't know if I can.
Right.
And so that's what it was, and live shots, all of that. But yeah, so getting into politics, that was a whole different thing.
Mentioned interviewing governors or senators or presidents. I know for me, it's like, well, people ask, well, who's your favorite interview? Well, I mean, I could go on and on. I mean,
sure.
I mean, from the Harmon Killebers of the world
know,
to Jim
Moore
to sitting down with Michael Jordan and doing an interview with him or whatever the case may be. Was there a moment, a person that you kind of had a pinch me moment, or going, I can't believe I'm sitting down and talking to this person in an interview fashion?
Yeah, for me, the very first one where I had to look around and make sure that this is me, right? I was in a parking lot on a misty, light rain day in Iowa, in a small town in Iowa, standing next to farmers with seed caps and bib overalls as Ronald Reagan, the governor, walked up.
The governor at that
Governor
time.
Ronald Reagan, running for president, came up to the podium and gave a speech. And I could recite all of these things. It was a very, very moving speech, almost like delivering a script in a movie, and that's what it felt like. He was so good. And I turned to my left and I turned to my right, and I see the farmers, and it's not the rain. They're crying.
Really?
Tears coming down their cheeks. And I'm looking, and then I look up and I think, I am in this place where this guy's going to be president of the United States. And indeed, he was elected.
Right.
But that was the first time I ever really felt that.
No, that sticks with you. I mean,
it absolutely does.
Yeah, I mean, that's a moment that you go, pinch me moment that
and
none of us ever believed would happen to us.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just a kid, and I'm in college covering Hubert Humphrey's funeral, and his casket is lying in state in the Minnesota Capitol, and I'm calling my parents to say, oh, you're not going to believe where I am, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were many of those, and there were crazy moments throughout all of our careers. And although I don't have favorite stories, and you elicited from me that one story about Reagan, that one has stuck with me from the very beginning as a kid, or as a young reporter. I was a kid reporter. I was a kid reporter. And that has stuck with me. But the stories as they unfold over time of everything from Paul Wellstone's plane crash to Jesse Ventura's election and all the craziness surrounding that, all the way through to George Floyd and the riots in Minneapolis. So many, many, many years of this. And it's been exciting and wonderful. It's been great.
We're going to take a break. So much more to talk about with Pat Kessler, his stories that go through decades with WCCO television and what he continues to try to, and as a Gopher fan, a Minnesota Gopher fan that never ends as well, which is wonderful. But first, we want to hear from our sponsors, Lexus of Wayzata, Lexus of Maplewood, our friend Charlie Swanson. And first, we'll talk about our friends at Stretch Lab. I've talked to you guys about this as well, that my nephew got me signed up. Normally every Tuesday I go over to Eden Prairie and a 50-minute session with Jason. And I mean, I found out the older I get, I mean, Pat loves to walk. I know that. Walking is a great exercise for your joints, as they say. But to me, the turning point as I continue to try to maintain my health in my senior years, as they like to call them, is getting stretched out. And I go through a 50-minute session with Jason every Tuesday over at Eden Prairie. And I would suggest highly that you sign up and check it out for yourself, because to me, it's the most vital part of your exercise routine. It's really easy. It's non-invasive. It's not the type of thing that's going to leave you, aching with pains. It's just very helpful. And it's really, I think, you're continuing to kickstart your exercise program. So check out Stretch Lab. There are locations throughout the Twin Cities, and tell them Rosie sent you, because I'm telling you, it's worth your time, worth your investment to check them out. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today. All right, we're back with Pat Kessler here on Rosen Sports Monday. Lots to talk about. We've had reminiscing about our days at WCCO Television, obviously, and we had, you mentioned Dave Moore, you mentioned Dave Nimmer. We had some bigger-than-life personalities down there. I mean, it really, I look at it, it's kind of a Field of Dreams newsroom that I grew up in and continued on. When you are around a Don Shelby and you understand the magnitude of what Don brought to the program every single day, I take a step back many times. A Renaissance man of all Renaissance men, but also a investigative reporter. What did you learn from Don besides everything that he ever wanted to tell you?
Well, and so we love Don Shelby so much, and the
we
dude
could rip
would,
him
even on the radio or on television. He would ask these questions that go on and on and on. And so my favorite thing was when a guest, he'd ask this long, involved, complicated question, and the guest would say,
"Yeah,
would you repeat the question?" It's like, but he is the guy that knows everything about everything, and he'll tell you that too.
Well, of course,
but
that's who he is.
Well, I learned so much about persistence from Don, and I was at the Capitol and at the Minnesota State Capitol, and so I didn't spend a lot of time in the newsroom. And when I'd get there, then Shelby would come over and want to talk about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much about the how to ask the right questions. Well, did you ask him this? Did you do this? Shelby was somebody who had a really big influence on me with his commitment to an issue. If he was going to do something, he became, I wouldn't say obsessed, but single-minded about it. I'm going to learn to play the guitar.
Right.
And I'm going to be the best blues guitarist there ever was. Or watch me play the harmonica. Mm-hmm. You're not going to believe this. Or I'm studying geothermal home heating systems. I mean, this is who he was.
He has, and to this day, an unquenchable thirst for knowledge.
Yes.
Whether it be Sherlock Holmes.
That's another one. Mark Twain. He would be Mark Twain, but then he would dress up as Mark Twain and do an hour pretending to be or acting as Mark Twain. So he was that person, and I've never met anybody like that before or since. And it was very inspiring to all of us in the newsroom. And in between, when things were really tough or stressful in the newsroom, he could make everybody laugh. And
I don't know if I told you one of my first interactions when Don and Pat Miles were here. And Don, I barely just met Don. And it started a tradition that continues to this day where we watch the NCAA men's championship basketball game every year. We have been doing it ever since Bird and Magic. Well, he's an Indiana boy, and at halftime of that game, I didn't know Don very well. And at halftime of the Indiana State game against Magic Johnson, he grabs a piece of paper and he starts diagramming plays that Indiana State should. I'm not making this up.
Oh my God,
should be running, and why they're not able to capitalize on the 2-3 zone that Michigan State's, whatever the case may be. I went, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah,
but you realize that's who he was then, and that's who he is today. No matter what it is, whatever the sport is, ask Don. He's got it done. You know, he coached his girls' basketball team. He did all of that the best he could, and I've never met anyone climb mountains. I mean, never met anyone like him in my life.
And so, you know, as a young reporter, when I would come back from the Capitol and we talk about what are the big issues of the day,
right?
He was always looking at what's next after what's next. So he was always 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everybody on the chessboard. So on something like climate change, for example, I remember this vividly, that, you know, people were starting to talk about it in the state of Minnesota. Is this an issue? Is it not? Cleaning up the rivers?
Sure.
What are we going to have to do here? And I got a tutorial from him over a long period of time about why this is important, what we need to be reporting on. So leading the way in our newsroom, as a leader of the newsroom, as the editor-in-chief, managing editor of the newsroom, knowing which direction we should be going, and not just today. Here's what happened today, and that's great. But here's what you need to look at in the state of Minnesota next month and next year. That he was really, really good at that.
Yeah, he was phenomenal at that. You mentioned the governors that you reported on and covered. And there's, you know, we know the names basically, but I have to center on Jesse, only because Jesse Ventura was such a character, and he. You know, I remember seeing him at the State Fair the year he ended up running, and he was running. He was at the State Fair like all politicians go to, and he was wearing his Zubas. And I said, Jesse, what are you doing? He goes, oh, let me tell you something. I'm just going to have some fun. He was doing his radio show at KFAN, you know, in the mid-morning. Yeah. And it's that line from the candidate, the Robert Redford, the last scene in the movie. He goes, now what are we going to do? I mean,
I know.
You know, he won, and he didn't expect to win. But I want to hear, you know, what your thoughts were about covering this man. Is going from his first term to when everybody became like you, a media jackal, and basically he wanted out. I mean, it didn't look like he wanted to be a part of it anymore.
Yeah, something very specific based on a story that we did at CCO when he wanted to get out. I will tell you that he didn't expect to win, as you mentioned. I didn't expect him to win until a day that I was at the Minnesota State Fair with him and walking through the fair with Jesse Ventura. I'm walking behind him with the camera, and I can see the people as they realize it's Jesse Ventura, and they all the crowds part. And people are coming up to him, and it's amazing the excitement that he generated. Now, remember that this is the time where Norm Coleman, the mayor of St. Paul, was running for governor,
right?
And also,
Humphrey, right?
Hubert Humphrey III running for governor. These guys were different shades of beige, Coleman and Humphrey. And they're saying the same old things over and over and over again. And Jesse was a burst of technicolor. And people were saying, holy crap, look at this guy. And he brought an entirely new mindset to politics, something that I loved every day, but I was deep into it. But real people at their breakfast tables over coffee would talk about Jesse, talk about politics, talk about the state. And he could disarm somebody very quickly, although he had the gruff exterior. Hey, Kessler,
right?
Why'd you do that? You know, and he had a gruff exterior, but he had an insight into Minnesota politics, I think, that very few politicians have, and could dismantle an opponent very quickly with one line. Probably from his wrestling days, you remember all that.
Of course, he was very theatrical.
In a debate with Norm Coleman, I remember sitting nearby at the debate, and there's sitting three of them: Coleman, Humphrey, and Jesse. And he looks down at Coleman's shoes, and he says, you're going to elect this guy? He's got tassels on his loafers.
Oh, my.
So he's got tassels on his loafers. No big. Yeah, you're not that guy. He's wearing Zubas and or fatigues
Right.
and sneakers. So yeah, that was Jesse.
So do you truly think he got either bored with the job and he was looking for a way out by blaming the media, or was he just tired of people, in his words, was invading his personal life with,
Well, I think it was his wife, Terry Ventura, was the one
Right.
who really had trouble with
Okay.
it. But I want to say this, that Jesse Ventura was a pretty good governor.
First term, I thought he was
really,
great.
really good.
Yeah.
And he had Democrats, he had Republicans in his, independents in his cabinet. And the state ran great. And, he had controversies over and over and over again, very much like President Trump does every single day. The press office would try to have him on message, but he would step on his message, and there'd be something different every single day, all day. And he was Donald Trump before Donald Trump was Donald
Right.
Trump.
Or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Or Schwarzenegger, yeah. But Schwarzenegger was even more of a traditional Republican.
Yeah, that's true.
He was. Jesse just had stuff every day, and as a matter of fact, after he was elected, the first time I met Donald Trump was when Trump flew out here to Minnesota to meet with Jesse Ventura and his campaign manager because he wanted to find out
How he did it? Seriously.
and find out what it was about.
Was this during Jesse's second term?
First term. Jesse
That-
served one term, and it was the first, like 1999, the first year.
So you think
even.
Trump was setting the table, so to speak?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He had come out with Art of the Deal, and
Right.
And President Trump was thinking about running for president on the Reform Party ticket, and was thinking about how to do it and what is it about Jesse Ventura that made him attractive to voters. And so Trump came out here, and they had a fundraiser for Jesse, and Trump came out in his plane of Trump Air,
Right.
Trump One, whatever it was, and came to the event. And I remember the event was in Brooklyn Center, I think, and came out there in a white limo, stretch limo. Trump was Trump. And
always
he
been
had
that
a
way.
press conference, and he was a little bit naughty and a little bit edgy. But he was very much like he is today, except not quite as over the top. But Donald Trump was trying to find out from Jesse what it was. But he ultimately decided not to run for president on the Reform Party ticket. But he was seriously thinking about it at the time.
And Jesse gave him the advice probably that he used and coming down the escalator and eventually led him to the presidency.
Exactly that stuff. But Jesse, I think, was a little resentful that people were trying to
associate.
Piggyback on Jesse. Jesse didn't like signing autographs because he thought people would sell them, that kind of thing. So he thought that people, even including Trump. So after 9/11, and Jesse Ventura was governor when 9/11 happened, the most horrible time in our country, just terrible. And I went to New York with Jesse Ventura, but he didn't want the press along with him. He had been paid by ABC News he didn't talk to the Minnesota media. And we're staying in a hotel. He was in the same hotel, all of this, and was trying to escape the media. And he runs out the back, and we chase him, and he gets in a big limo, door opens, and there's Donald Trump. So they had a working relationship throughout Jesse Ventura's governorship and afterwards. So, and now we have Donald Trump.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, he was really good. Now he didn't get bored with it, but he continually was pushing the envelope. He got a contract with the XFL. He refereed a wrestling match, a WWE wrestling match. That was one of the highlights of my career. I got to interview Triple H and China. It was so great. It was
China,
so
not the country we're talking about. CHYNA.
Yeah. And Triple H was just really great, and
that's funny.
But we had wrestlers coming through too when Jesse was governor. Nature Boy Ric Flair I interviewed. Yeah, it was just fantastic.
I think about Jesse, and he pops up every time there's a conspiracy theory, and he used to come down to our newsroom, and we had our satellite center down there.
Very much so.
Do interviews all the time, and he'd come bellowing into the newsroom, looking for me because we'd go at it about the Kennedy assassination, his conspiracy theory about it, and I would throw cold water on him and would try to, but I just enjoyed it so much. It was never hostile. It was just Jesse being Jesse. And me going, no, I think Oswald was the only one, and blah, blah, blah.
And people need to know this, that he was very anti-media in public, correct?
Yes.
He was really at us. We're the jackals, and he tried to ban us from the... But when he's in the WCCO newsroom, he would go from desk to desk to desk.
I loved it.
And then he would hang out there all the time because he wanted to be part of it.
Exactly.
Part of the bit.
One of your big responsibilities as time went on was doing a segment called Reality Check. And it was, part of our, I don't know, it was once a week or whenever it was appropriate. And I keep thinking, I remember even talking to you in the newsroom, that you'd get it from both sides. No matter what you said, the conservatives would be pissed at you, and the Democrats would be pissed at you, no matter what take, you would take. And how did you handle that and about going about your business? Or that just come with the territory? Because that was even before really social media hit to the way it hits today, where everything is divisive.
It's very true. We were among the very first in the country to do a fact check of what politicians said. And it was during the U.S. Senate campaign of Norm Coleman and Paul Wellstone. And we were fact-checking Rudy Boschwitz. Let me rephrase it. It was Rudy Boschwitz and Paul Wellstone. And so we were very early on in the 90s trying to do this. And, it was very tough because we did not have social media. We barely had computers in our newsroom. And by the way, Dave Moore used the typewriter till the day he died.
One finger typing.
And so we didn't have computers, so we didn't have the internet. And so we had to research this with telephone calls and
crazy
and go to libraries.
You had a Rolodex.
Yeah, call people. That was the thing. And so we would do fact checks and try to make them as clear as possible. And we called it reality check. And we do true, false, not the whole story. And it was shocking at the time that we would, instead of saying, you had two politicians saying the earth is flat. Well, on the other hand, this one says the earth is round. And so, that's how we presented the news in those days. It's raining. No, it's not raining. We were able in these to say, no, he's not telling the truth. What he's telling you is false. And at the time, that was shocking to our viewers. And many people thought we should not do that. That was not our role. So not just the people attacking us as Republicans or Democrats, but our viewers thought that isn't the proper role of a journalist,
right?
To tell you that this person is not telling you the truth. So that was back in the 90s. And then as the internet came around and we were able to do more research, it became a weekly thing, Reality Check. And we had to balance it pretty well on Republican, Democrat, conservative, not conservative. I even did one year on is Santa Claus real? And
now that's heavy.
Yeah, that was controversial. Let me tell you. But it's much different nowadays because I believe, and it's happened in about the last 10 years, we are in a post-truth society and media. So we don't accept what's true and what's not true. We don't accept basic facts. And so when we can't even agree on basic facts, we're going to disagree on almost everything. We are going to be more polarized than ever before and divided. And so that's what's happened now.
My dear friend Alan Page, I think one of my favorite lines of his, and I don't know if he's the only one that said it, but it sticks with me all the time, is we're all entitled to our own opinion, but we're not entitled to our own facts.
There it is. But people think they're entitled to their own facts now.
So you got a lot of pushback. I mean, did you get some pretty heavy duty stuff?
It was a really heavy pushback, and it was beyond the
pale.
The stuff that you're a flaming liberal,
right.
Or you're a dumb conservative. Whatever it is, I can take all that. Not a problem. We got literally hundreds of those, but then it got personal. Like we're gonna get you, or or even, you're a bald, fat
Right.
dinkus.
Did you ever fear about your own safety?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, and I don't, it's not about the reporter.
No, I
it
know,
really
but
isn't.
still.
But there, it got to be in this business, and I'm sure with a number of our fellow reporters and anchors, particularly female ones, that there are people out there who are really problematic and threatening and possibly violent.
Well, my dear friend and our friend Kylie Burse just went through a real tough situation and became very public about it to help other women about a stalker.
Yeah.
I know Pat Miles had a stalker. I mean, there are other people. I mean, Kylie went through it just recently and talked very openly about it, and hopefully helping other women in particular in that situation. She used to work with us at WCCO and now in Colorado. So, I mean, I know
it's
what
the same thing. I mean, where
Right.
people show up at the
station
thinking that they're going to rescue their spouse, their wife,
right,
and they're totally they have mental health crisis. But yeah, so we got that all the time. Only once did I have to get protection from someone who was coming after us, and you never knew where it was going to come from.
That's scary.
But but again, it's not about the reporter, and I think it's just about the environment. And people don't care. I really believe that people don't care. That a reporter works long hours or is tired or has worked 20 days in a row or is getting the pushback. People don't care.
No.
Just give me the news and be honest about it, as honest and fair as you can be.
Well, the best thing to come out of WCCO, speaking of wives, is your current wife, a woman named Mim Davey, who started, I believe, as an assignment editor, when I recall.
I think she was before that. Yeah.
Maybe even before that at WCCO TV, who I've known for many, 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 many years as well. Worked a little bit in the sports department, helped us out. But you guys have a wonderful relationship, a wonderful marriage, and it came out of WCCO television,
correct?
It's
the best thing that ever happened to me coming out of CCO. I mean,
You
none of this
really
other
are.
stuff.
No.
This was good stuff.
Well,
and so yes, I met Mim at WCCO, and before she was at CCO, she was doing WCCO radio, working in the baseball booth, the radio booth with Herb Carneal.
She's a huge sports fan.
Yeah, huge. So she worked the years that they went from worst to first.
Mm-hmm.
So her job, working in the radio booth with John Gordon and Herb Carneal.
I never
think
knew
about this.
Yeah.
And so her job was to go from in the Metrodome, when you're up in the radio booth.
Yeah.
And how far was it to get from that all the way down to the field? It took about an hour to get up and down. And she had to pick the player of the game.
Okay.
And so the Twins are in last place in the American League. And her job was to get the player of the game. So they would designate the player of the game, and then she'd go down there to find this player. And so many times they didn't want to talk to her. And she says that some of the players were ornery, and somebody who helped her would be Kirby Puck. Come on, man, you got to talk to her.
I'm not surprised.
You got to talk to her. And so she had some difficulty. She had more success with the opposing teams where they would come. But she tells a story of then the next year, of course, they're in first place and they're going to win the World Series that year. And so she goes down on the field and everybody wants to talk to the players, but it's going into the playoffs, and she's down there and trying to get the players, the relief pitcher, Beard.
Jeff Reardon?
Yeah.
Okay. Or is it Aguilera?
Aguilera. It was Rick Aguilera.
Right.
Thank you. I had a brain hiccup there.
It's okay.
She goes down there, and all the national. He says, "Yeah, I'll talk to you." He says, "But I got to put ice on my shoulder, and I'll come out when I'm done with that." She says, "Well, I'll never get to talk to him. He's the hero of the game. Wins it in the 9th inning, strikes him out, and I'm never going to see him again." He comes out with all the national media out there, and they're saying, "Rick, come on over here." He says, "No, I promised this young lady I'm going to talk to her." And he walks over there and does it. This was the job that she had done. They all knew her then in the second year, where she had been down there every single home game. So she did that for a long time. I could talk about my wife for a long time. So that was back in the early days. And
what I want to talk about your wife about, and I'm trying not to get emotional, her relationship with Darcy Pollen. Darcy was a hero to all of us in the newsroom. Suffered, unfortunately, she was paralyzed. A young woman died in a diving accident.
Pool accident in Washington.
Accident never stopped her from pursuing her dream. She worked at WCCO for many years, never turned on a story. She had her own designed van that she would drive herself to these assignments.
Think about that, yeah.
And what it took, and she passed way too soon. But Mim was her guardian angel in a lot of ways.
And they were best friends.
Best friends. And I just think about that relationship, and especially associated with the Gopher sports. Yes. They both had beyond passion. You guys continue to be that way, but Darcy was that way, and Mim was there for her all the time. But anytime I felt sorry for myself in the newsroom, and I got a long day, and I haven't had a lunch break, blah, 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 I look over at Darcy, and she'd be hammering away at her story. And I'd say, Darcy, is it time for you to go home? I got to finish this up. I got to get a thing done for the morning show, whatever it might be.
And she would type on the keyboard.
Right.
She had a pencil-like instrument, a piece of wood, and she did doink, doink, doink.
Correct.
And she could do it because she couldn't use her arms really.
Right.
She had been paralyzed, quadriplegic in a pool accident in Washington, D.C. She and Mim were very, very close, best friends. They went to all the games together.
They sure did.
And now it can be told, the ticket that I have, that I tend to go for games with my wife, is Darcy's ticket.
That makes me feel even better.
So they have been going to these games together for 30-plus years. So since they were both young, crazy women in Minneapolis, and in late nights in the Minneapolis, they hung around together a lot, and they loved each other deeply. And that was a terrible too early death. And Mim delivered the eulogy at a funeral. So we think about her all the time.
We do, and your love and Mim's love for the Gophers continues. Nice win over Nebraska on Friday night, but you I know when you're with Barrero, they chide you just a few times about maroon and gold and doing
is
crowd
that okay?
Crowd surfing with PJ and
why
everything.
not?
I enjoy it. We haven't had a lot to cheer about with Gophers
and
football
rushing the
years.
field. Well, I don't care.
Did you rush the field?
I rushed the field against Penn State. We did that.
I would do the same.
And but the thing about rushing the field is that because I am a man of a certain age, as I've said, and you run down there, and you got to hang. We get down because we're in, of course, the beautiful people.
The
seats.
suite, of course.
Well, no, we're not in a suite.
No, I know.
You're
up in the
like I said, we got Darcy's tickets.
Yeah,
Darcy and Mim's tickets, I should say.
Right.
So we go down and we run down in Penn State. Let's go. We're going to go. And you go down to the field and you're hanging. So I didn't realize how big the wall is. It's a cement block wall.
It's made for 20-year-olds.
So, but you got to hang, and I'm still not. But I see her, and we're right next to each other, and she's going to jump down. And I thought, oh man. I said, hey. And one of the security guys, help her. And he helped her down. And I said, thank you, man. And I said, come here. And he takes off, and I'm, boom, and I end up, I'm on the ground. I'm like, and she's in the middle of the field. I don't know where she is. She says, see ya.
Funny. Oh, that's great.
No, so people are criticizing students for rushing the field. Go, if you want to rush the field, rush the field.
Who cares?
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about so much now. Just go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just,
that was a good win, and honestly, I just wasn't sure about that game because you hear all of the quote unquote experts.
Well, Nebraska's
on
favorite.
The way. I know, and then it goes down to 3, and then it goes up to 10, and they were a favorite at our home field. We've been playing okay, but not great.
Well, they were lucky to beat
Gophers.
Purdue. Lucky they made the right.
Yeah, but I always say a W is a W. But
right.
They came in here. Nebraska did, the Cornhuskers, as a 7-8 point favorite, thinking that they're going to have their way with us, and somehow they put it all together: offense, defense, special teams, student section. I mean, the place was rocking. Yeah.
And we have to wrap things up here, but we could go on and on about dealing with NIL and the transfer portal and how it's affecting teams like Minnesota. Look at Indiana right now. ranked second or third in the country. India.
Why not us?
Not in basketball, in football.
Why not us?
And Barrero's loving it, of course. But the point of the matter is, it could happen here. It's taken. They're turning the corner a little bit.
PJ Fleck is turning this program around to an incredible degree, where he's teaching these young men to be men,
responsible,
spiritually, socially, athletically.
And I know people think it's a bit. That's who he is.
It's not a bit. Trust me, it's not a bit.
Yeah.
And so he's really helping these people. And by the way, this is now a road to the NFL for many players.
It is.
I think when you're recruiting.
Right.
You're recruiting, it's got to be a good recruiting skill. So, we love the Gophers.
Well, my wife, Karen, and I, of course, love spending time with you guys. And she will be on the opposite side next Saturday because she went to Iowa Law School. So I have to deal with
excuse, but
that.
that's okay.
But, that's okay.
I'll be thinking of you.
But Pat, it's been a pleasure. We could go on and on, but I really appreciate the time. Appreciate your
I love
friendship.
being with you. I love you, man. And this is
a couple
just
retired
great.
guys just kicking it around a little bit.
It's awesome.
Thanks, man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be.
Pat Kessler. Thanks for listening to Rosen Sports Monday.